Okay, this is my review of the Blue Elf 309-in-1 JAMMA board. I believe this is the Blue Elf 2009 edition, or so it says on the cartridge. So let's evaluate the pros and the cons of this cartridge. Number one, it doesn't have too bad of a price point. It's sitting at about 140 to 180 bucks, depending on where you get it. It's not bad. You're going to cram 300 games into one single cartridge. That's better than any of the Neo Geo carts, and it has a lot of Capcom games and a little bit of variety from old Taito games and a little bit of everything. And so in a size-wise, the cartridge is JAMMA, of course, so it hooks right up to a standard JAMMA harness. You will want one that is fully loaded, that has wires in the, number 25, 26, and 27 slots. Otherwise, you'll have some jimmy rigging that has to be done. So make sure you get a fully loaded harness. The cartridge itself is about the size of a Neo Geo cartridge. And first thing we see, it's not bad looking. It's got a nice little menu, typical of a front end for a MAME system. And where you have game list on the left-hand side, right-hand side, you show a preview of whatever game is highlighted. You've got a counter that scrolls through the games, so every 30 seconds or so you'll get a new game that shows. So that way, if you were a kid at a laundromat and you had nothing to do and you had no money, at least you could watch the different games or something. And as soon as you enter a coin or a credit, you'll actually have 90 seconds to figure out what game you want. Otherwise, whatever you have highlighted, it will play. And it does, in fact, this is the instruction that came with it, it does in fact cost a whole nother quarter plus pressing the start button to get out and back to the list. So if you were playing this game en route, it would cost you 50 cents if you made a mistake to get back to the menu. So that's kind of a downer. I really wish they had a better system for that. Maybe just hold start for 5 seconds, but I don't know, then maybe some kid out on route would play that indefinitely. The problem with this cartridge, in my opinion, is it's just not made to be a route game. This should not be out on route. It's too confusing to operate. Even something as simple as this. The way you have to hit that button to play instead of start, the way you access out of the menu, it just seems like it's too much drama for the typical kid who doesn't know anything. They just want to put in a quarter and just play whatever's in there. They don't want to have to select through crap. So that would be my biggest thing with it. It's good for a home game room use. Like I said, 300 games in one single cartridge. That's not bad. So let's go ahead and coin it up. It shows that we have a coin, and now we have 90 seconds to figure out what we want to play. I mean, it's got everything organized by genre. You've got all the King of Fighters together on page 1 and then page 2. I mean, there's 27 pages of this stuff. I think there's a little bit more, but I turned off a lot of the adult games so that my kids could play it. But, they'll have them organized together. All the metal slugs will be together. However, I had to turn mine off, and I'll explain that in a little bit here. But you got your brawlers all put together. You got older stuff towards the back, puzzle stuff together, sports stuff lumped together. All the Street Fighters are thrown together, Alpha, Zeros, X-Men versus Street Fighter, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of games on here. A lot of Capcom, a lot of Neo Geo, a lot of brawlers. Basically anything from 1988 to about 2002. I mean, it's going to be on here if it was a Capcom or Neo Geo or something of that day that used, a typical joystick button layout. My biggest complaint on here for game selection, there was no Konami stuff or Midway stuff. While you have Street Fighter 2, about 5 billion variety of them, there's no Mortal Kombat. And also, you've got, beat 'em ups like Magic Sword and Dungeons and Dragons, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. But you don't have The Simpsons or X-Men or Sunset Riders or any of those Konami games. So that was kind of a downer. The other big negative point on this cartridge, the System 16 Sega games are garbage. Golden Axe, Altered Beast, Shinobi, 3 of my favorites and 3 of the ones that really I wanted to play on this cartridge, which is why I spent the extra money. They will play worse than your Sega Master System. They look terrible, they sound terrible, and they are choppier than all get up. Now, if you were to hit start, this is what you'd look at. I think the PlayStation 1 had a faster loading time. That's a negative point. That is definitely a con. It takes forever to load the newer games. So don't be confused and think every single game is going to take that long to load, but the newer stuff, you know, this, Street Fighter 3, some of the Metal Slugs, they just take a long time to load up, and that's another downfall to ever put this on route. So we hit start, yada yada yada. You know, you pick your guy, or basically, I mean, well, we'll go ahead and watch the gameplay so you can kind of hear the sound. The sound on a lot of these games is not good. Now, I can't tell you with all certainty because I really don't know how these games all sounded. There's 300 of them. I never played all those in the Cade back in those days. But I'm pretty sure they didn't sound like this. You know, this doesn't have stereo sound, so all the games are going to have that Genesis kind of style sound. You know, they're going to sound very digitized, scratchy, fuzzy. You know, certain music is not going to be amplified in the background behind moves being drawn. So that's kind of a bummer. Like, this is one of the newer games, and in my opinion, it doesn't look as good as the original Neo Geo looked. You know, it's very pixelated. Wow, what's that supposed to be? Anyway, it's very pixelated, and it's just a bit choppy. You're going to see some of the monitor hum. That's, you know, so that's tough to kind of draw a conclusion from seeing it on screen here. But it just doesn't look as good. To me, it's no better than if you had played this on a Flash game or something on the net. It's just not really good. It's okay. I mean, it functions, but you know, I've got a toaster that halfway functions too. I mean, when you spend 145 bucks on a board, you want to be wowed by it. You kind of want to feel good about it. And afterwards, after you play through some of these games, you get a bad taste in your mouth. You don't want them to just function. You want them to look good. I don't know. I guess that's the price you pay to cram that much information to a single board. Now, here's the problem I have. I had to turn off my Metal Slugs. Here's what happens when I load up any of the Metal Slugs. And this happens on several of the games on here. This is wired up as normal as you can get to a K7000 monitor. Horizontal sync, everything's hooked up correctly. Okay, so that one worked. Don't know why that happened. But the other Metal Slugs, for some reason, will not play. You'll hear them play, but the screen is just all screwed up looking. I don't know why that is. It might have a bad cartridge, but I've been pretty happy with you know, a lot of the little beat 'em ups, even the Metal Slugs and stuff. They seem to run just fine. The sound isn't as good, but the graphics do look just fine. It's totally playable. Everything's nice and smooth. Metal Slug 2 still has the slowdown that Metal Slug X finally fixed. See, that was kind of weird. I had this originally hooked up to a TV converter and a TV, and I was able to play it just fine. However, when I hooked up Metal Slug X to this K7000 monitor, it didn't want to play. Who knows? Oh, and FYI, if you're in your own personal game room and you think, hey, I'm going to build a little mini MAME cab and I'm going to stick a TV with a converter in there, you can't do it. That's right. This cartridge will not work with the TV converters that turn RGB signal into S-video. It will not work. It does not convert the signal. You might get some games to look on screen, but they're going to be all washed out and terrible looking. So that game didn't take too terrible long to load up. But other ones like, yeah, let's find some older beat 'em ups here. Jeez, blah blah blah. I mean, you can just see. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's plenty for, you know, a little bit of everything. You know, jeez. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, page after page after page. I mean, I'm not going to be able to cover everything just because there's so many games. I mean, 300 games, I can't cover everything. But just take my word for it. A lot of the games are pretty disappointing. So, I mean, you saw that. It took a fraction of a second to load up an older game like Ghouls and Ghosts just because there's not that much information. That's just typical of the game back in the day that have those ROM checks. Blah, blah, blah. It knows we entered a quarter. It's not bad. It's certainly better than how Altered Beast and Golden Axe look. And for the sake of, you know, the short video span that I have, I'm not going to be able to show too much more of this. However, you get the idea. Overall, if I had to rate the Blue Elf cartridge on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it, you know, just a mediocre 5. It's not terrible, but it's really not that great, and it just begs to be the Gamebox 450 in 1. I mean, anything but this. I would rather even mod an Xbox then run the Blue Elf. So I will not be using the Blue Elf again. I was pretty disappointed with it, but you may not have that level of expectation, and so it might work for you just fine. But take my word for it, you know, spend a little bit more and just get a system that's going to work a little bit better for you. Thanks a lot for watching.